Hello, my name is Jaime Manresa. I am an international student from Spain that went in SST in Ecuador in spring 2020. And I want to talk about why you should go on SST. And more specifically, why should international students go on SST? Because I was an international student that was in a situation where I felt like I didn't need to go on SST just because of the simple fact that I'm an international student. And I felt like I had already done my job, so why would I go there, right? So I want to tell you three things or three reflections that kind of made me think twice and eventually changed my mind. So the first one is directed to a more general public rather than just international students, and it's the most obvious one, and it's that evidence shows that people that have spent some time abroad, they do better in life. And the do better in life part is kind of hard to quantify, but if you look at studies and statistics, you kind of get the idea that, actually going abroad it's not so bad. And so, first thing is that people that have gone abroad and studied there, they do better in academics. According to the University of Georgia study they made, 100% of their students raised their GPA after studying abroad. These people also do better in their jobs. A UK study shows that people that have gone abroad, they are more likely to get a job within 6 months after graduation. And they do better socially. The University of Maryland has a study that shows that 95% of their students claim that they improved in terms of their maturity and they gain self-confidence. And so I feel identified with these facts. I feel like my soft skills have improved significantly during my time in Ecuador or my time in the US. So because in Ecuador, the classes that I was taking, they were not focused so much on academics. Right? They were not focused on science, they were not focused on biology, chemistry, physics, any of those things. They were topics, they were classes that you were forced to think. You had to reflect on global topics that you would not otherwise do if you were not forced to, probably, right? And so they were more interactive. You had to give your opinion and enter into the discussion that, in the end of the day, it would allow you to get better in terms of your communication skills and expressing yourself and all that. So I felt like my communication skills mostly improved during my time in Ecuador. And so this is just one example, but I think that you get the point that studying abroad is for sure beneficial. The second thing I want to talk about is kind of related, but more specifically addressed to international students, and is that I already knew all these facts. I already knew that studying abroad was beneficial, and that is in fact why I chose to go in the US and study in the US, right? So why would I go on SST, right? And so this brings me to my second point, which is, what does it really mean to be an international student? Yeah, think about it. What does it mean? Well, for me, being from Spain and deciding going on SST, I felt like, I had already done my job as an international student. So, but then you think about it, and during my three years in Goshen, by the end of these 3 years, I feel like I was getting comfortable, right? And probably too comfortable. My routine wasn't changing. I was doing the same things over and over again, with the same people I knew. And I felt like my sense, my identity of an international student did not seem to play a big role in my daily life, right? And also, and I was getting comfortable, and the whole point of me going to the US is because I wanted to get out of this comfort zone, right? Because I think that that's when your learning curve increases the most. And so by that time is when I decided to go on SST. I wanted to feel international again. I wanted to live new experiences. So, and I knew that if I exposed myself to the unknown, I would become a more well-rounded person. So, and especially if you go to a country that you've never been before, your global awareness increases, right? Me being able to contrast cultures from, the Spanish, American, and Ecuadorian cultures, probably going to be able to do better in a multicultural environment in terms of a job, and probably take my decisions from a more open-minded perspective. So, yeah, what does it mean to be an international student? So for me, it means that you study in an unfamiliar environment where you're constantly exposed to novelty, and therefore you're forced to adapt. And so that is exactly what SST offers. And that's why I chose to go. So if you are a person that might be in the same position as I was before going on SST, yeah, think about this question. What does it mean to be an international student? And more importantly, am I really being one? And finally, I want to bring up the topic of language. Ecuador is a Spanish-speaking country, and I speak Spanish. So, why would I want to go there, right? Some people think that going on SST is all about the language and getting to know, more about, learning a new language essentially. But, I've had some experience with that. Went from Spain to the US, and I know that language could be a problem, right? Could be a barrier that it could be difficult to overcome. And I've certainly experienced that when I went to the US with English. So this time around, I wanted SST, I wanted Ecuador to be different. I wanted it to be, more real I wanted to focus more on relationships with the people that I met there, rather than having some sort of barrier in between. And I could see this right from the beginning when, we were presented to our host families. I could see that my interactions with them were more natural and less forced than probably, some of my classmates that, Spanish wasn't their first language. So, and also I could see how over time that this relationship with my host family, it was different from my classmates, right? Just because of this missing barrier. And also I didn't notice that just with my host family, but anywhere I went, essentially, right? Because I felt like I knew everything that was going on around me, right? I kind of knew the whole thing. I felt like I was in control of the situation. Whereas if I go maybe to China or somewhere else that I don't know the language and there's a lot of things going on, you feel like, wow, you're missing a lot of stuff, and that could potentially cause some stress and so be a little bit uncomfortable. But for me, I had the advantage of knowing the language, so I knew everything that was happening around me. And so a nice example is when we went to the street market in Otavalo. That's that's a market where indigenous people come and try to sell you their things, right, their products, and try to make money. It was really nice, very beautiful. But you know they're not silly, and so when they see a foreign-looking person, they're like, you know, it's game on, and you're gonna be the prey, right? And so they start talking to you, and unconsciously or consciously they start to raise the prices of their products, right? And and so because I knew the language and I could see that coming from a mile away, right? And I could see that from the way that they were talking, from their body language, and so I was able to kind of bargain a little bit with them and lower the price to a more reasonable value. Um, Whereas you know maybe some classmates and some American classmates that they did not know the language that much, they certainly had more difficulties doing so. So that is just one example of the point that I'm trying to make here, which is that if you're considering going on SST and you know that you're fluent in an SST destination, think about it twice in going there, right? If you think that going on SST is all about language, yeah, think about it, right? Going to a place where you know the language could actually be, you know, beneficial for you because you wouldn't have any this kind of barrier that I've talked about. So, you know, so far I've talked about the benefits of going on, of studying abroad. Also that knowing the language of an SST destination could be potentially beneficial for you. And also, I raised the question of, you know, what does it mean to be an international student? So, for me, I think that the more that you get out of your comfort zone, the more you expand its boundaries, and so the more comfortable you're gonna get, right? So, I'm an international student, and I went on SST. And I encourage all international students that take this step forward and take such an opportunity. Because trust me, you're not gonna regret it.